Hey photographer, welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, welcome. My name is Michelle and I make videos all about photography. And today I'm spilling a little bit of tea today. So if you've clicked on this video, then you probably already know, but I'm gonna share why I purchased the Canon R6 and why a couple weeks later I had to return it. So let's get into story time. So brief backstory about my gear that I use now. For my camera body, I have a 5D Mark II that I've used for years. It's my workhorse. It's amazing. I love it. I've always been a Canon user from the moment I started photography, and I started off with a Canon Rebel. I feel like most of us do, all the way to upgrading through full body camera frames and everything to today. I love Canon, and so I knew I was going to continue with Canon because I like Canon. And the current lenses that I like to use is a Canon 50mm 1.4 lens, as well as a Sigma Art 35mm 1.4 lens as well, and those are my two kind of go-to for my senior portraits. And so when I tell you I'm not a gearhead, I am not a gearhead. I'm not someone that needs the latest and greatest camera. I have never purchased any camera new. I've always purchased used equipment, both lenses and camera bodies, because I'm cheap like that, and I am a firm believer that the first gear you should invest in is knowledge, knowing about lighting, composition, posing, most importantly, and then upgrading your lenses. That's gonna make the biggest impact for your pictures and everything right off the bat, and then your camera body. However, I've been in this game a long time. I have been in business for 9 years, and I've been doing photography for probably 15 years in general. And so, you know, your girl gets a little reward every now and then. And I've been hearing, like every photographer, this huge wave of mirrorless cameras, right? That's the wave of the future. That's where everyone's going. And I still believe that's true. And so I did my research. I had pretty high expectations, I will say, because of the content that was on YouTube. I thought this was going to be the best thing since sliced bread. The main biggest thing was the eye tracking feature, right? That was the thing I was looking forward to most, is that everyone was saying it's almost impossible to get a out of focus image or not to have sharp eyes on the image. In my work, I'm a very huge stickler when it comes to focusing, and especially the eyes. Obviously, as I'm a portrait photographer, that is crucial. So that was my main reason for wanting to purchase the R6. And I knew this time I wanted to purchase brand new. I've never purchased any camera brand new. Plus, I don't even think you could get used R6s at this point because it was so new. So I was prepared, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna finally do it. I'm gonna pull the trigger and just invest in this camera body. So I chose to purchase the Canon R6 with the adapter on there because I didn't want to buy all RF lenses. I wasn't ready to totally switch out all my gear lens that I've already purchased and stuff like that. So I decided to get the adapter, plus everything I researched also said no one had any problems with that, and it was only like $100 to add on. And when you're already spending $2,600 or whatever it was around that price, I was like, what's another 100, right? So we added it to the cart. I got it in the mail. So excited. When I first opened up, I should have done a reaction video, but it was really almost weird because it was so tiny and so light. And at first it felt like, I'm like, this was $3,000. Like, I couldn't believe it almost because it felt like a toy because it was so small. But the more I worked with it, I was like, actually, this is really nice. Like, it's really nice on your wrist. It's going to be good for carrying around gear and all that stuff. And once you put the adapter and the lens on, it felt a little bit more sturdy. But anyway, so that was the first impression. And I had family sessions right out the gate that I used it for, and it was great. It was going great. The images looked amazing. The eye tracking feature was so fun, especially with families when they're doing movement posing, like walking and all that stuff. Got it back into my computer, and they were all pretty much tack sharp, other than a few adjustments that I knew was user error on my part, and it was great. I was so excited about this camera. I posted about it all over my social media. And then a week later, I had 2 senior sessions, and this is where the problems began. So again, made sure to do all my research for the settings, all that, make sure I was good to go. And I shot my first senior session with the R6. So I got home excited to see all these beautiful images, and when I loaded them up on the computer and saw them up close, my heart completely sank and dropped because I realized that 90% of them were out of focus on the eyes, and I couldn't believe it. And when the more and more I went through the images, I saw that it kept focusing, instead of the eyes, it would focus on a necklace or on their hairline right here. And when I was shooting, I made sure that green eye was on, or the green box that they give you for where the eye focus is, was on their eye, and it looked like it was tracking the whole time. And I'd even tap on it occasionally and make sure the eyes were in focus, because I'm a huge stickler about tack sharp focus images. That's one of the things I'm most proud of my work. And they were just all soft, and like they were passable maybe from far away, but I did not just purchase a $3,000 camera for passable images. And so I was like, okay, well maybe it's my fault, right? Maybe I did a wrong setting or anything. And so the next morning I called Canon support. I walked them through what was happening, and they couldn't quite figure out what was going on too, because we made sure that it wasn't on, because there's a setting where you can make sure it's on the eye tracking on vertical and horizontal, and it was on both. It wasn't just on one or the other. The tech support, I will say, was very nice, very quick, easy to get a hold of, and they were trying to walk me through, but they didn't see any reason for it to not work. But they said maybe manually override it and just, you know, manually choose the focus feature and see if that helps. And first of all, that was still really discouraging, because the whole reason I got the R6 was the automatic eye tracking feature. But I was like, okay, well maybe, I mean, I'm doing that anyway with my 5D Mark II. Maybe I'll just do it for this camera. So I had a senior session the next day and just manually focused. Again, made sure that dot was right on their eye, would tap on the eye, did all the things to make sure it was on the eye. And guess what happened? Brought all the images in my computer, and the same thing. All the eye was soft, the eyebrows were soft, the nose was soft, the eyelashes were soft, everything was soft, but it kept grabbing on like the end of the hair. Or if she had earrings, it'd grab onto the earrings, and they were tack sharp. And I was like, what in the world is going on? I'm gonna jump off the computer and show you a couple of different examples of what I'm talking about so you can see it a little bit closely. All right, guys, so I'm going to show you some examples of what I'm talking about. So this is the first senior session that I did with the R6. And again, these are all straight out of the camera images. None of them have been edited. These are just the raw files. So I'm going to show you what is going on here. Okay, so first image up here, when you zoom in on her eyes, get in close here, you can see how soft they are. Like nothing here is in focus. And so I was pretty shocked by that. And even more so when I realized that her hair and her necklace is what was in focus. So I was like, okay, so one image, right? No big deal. So let's go do another one. Again, straight out of the camera. And immediately you can probably already tell, but let's go ahead and zoom in. And look how soft that is. That would not be passable. I could not sell that to my client. That wouldn't even be close to my standards I'd be okay with. But again, a little farther down, you can see her necklace and hair is in focus. Super weird. Again, the eye tracker was working. The green little square was on her eyes in this image, and it just did not work. And then again, this is a horizontal image. Nothing has changed from what I was doing before with the green boxes on her eyes, but yet this one is intact, sharp, is like super sharp, right? This is what I was expecting every single time on my portrait images. Like, look at all the detail in her eyebrows. This is what my current Canon 5D Mark II does. And this is the high quality images that I expect, raw images out of the camera. So again, for some reason, it would do really well on the horizontal, but this is further into the session. Again, even eyes down was not catching it. You can see how soft those eyebrows are. And again, it seemed to be catching her hair a little bit more on the outside for some reason. And then move this further in the session. This is a little better, but still, again, it shouldn't be, it's still a little soft for me. And again, horizontal image, guess what? Zoom in, tack sharp. This is what I was hoping that the Canon R6 was going to do for me on every image, not just horizontal images. And I heard that they had point systems that were supposed to make it even better on the outside. And again, since her head is in the upper third of the photograph, you can probably already tell, but it's going to be soft. Soft here, soft here, soft everywhere where it's important. So I couldn't use that image, and I think I have one more. And this is why I wanted to share this image. So I noticed that when the subject was in the middle of my frame, it seemed to do a better job. So going close here, tack sharp, even though it was far away, but that totally passable image. It's a great image there. Everything's sharp, but it's because it's in the lower one. As soon as, like I said, it's in the upper third. For some reason, it just was not working. So this was my second senior session after I'd already called it Canon support, did all the change of settings that they recommend, changed out my lens, all the things to, and then manually choose the focal point to make sure that it was in focus. And so here's the problem I was having. So again, these images are all untouched, unretouched, unedited, all the things straight out of camera. So again, first image, as you can see when we grow closer, her eyes are pretty soft, especially for at least my quality. But then you look at her earrings down here and they're intact, sharp focus. So it was grabbing onto the ends of the hair and the earrings for some reason instead of her eyes. But then again, for horizontal, for some reason, when I went this way, it'd be in sharp, it'd be in focus. I could totally sell that image. That's okay for me. And then I wanted to show an example of when which I didn't understand until I got all the images back on my camera or in my computer, when I had the subject in the center of my frame instead of the top third, it would be pretty in focus still. Like that is in focus to me. I could sell that image. But as soon as the image was in the top third of my frame, it would start getting soft again. And so this is important for like her one eyeball that's closest to the camera to be in focus, and it's not. It's on the outer edges, it's on this eyeball, it's on the ends of her hair here, which just blows my mind that it was not focusing, even though the eye tracking, autofocus, all the green ones, I touch her eyeball, like I did all the things. And so that was my frustration. And then just to drive the point home a little bit more, again, when I went horizontal, for some reason, then it could like detect her eyes and be like, oh, you got eyeballs in this picture horizontally. I could make that work. So now you can see my frustration, hopefully. So what I did is I called tech support again. Again, they were very kind. They were trying to help me through. They gave me a couple different other things to try. I took my husband outside. I took my dogs outside. I practiced on them, brought the images in. Same thing happened. So for some reason, I don't know if it just happened to be the camera, the firmware, all that stuff was up to date. But no matter what I did, I could not get the eyes to be in focus. And for me to spend that kind of gear money and for all these promises listed and all these people talking about how amazing it is, it just wasn't worth it for me to be scared to use it. I was scared to use it for my next session unless if I was doing any portrait work. And I'm a high school senior photographer, so 90% of my layout is in portraits, like very few are in landscape. So if I was a family photographer, it might have been even a little bit different. But yeah, it wasn't worth it. So unfortunately, I did have to return it and get a refund, and they don't refund the shipping, so I was out that money anyway. So I was pretty disheartened, and I want to love it. I still would give it another try if I knew what was wrong, or if it would just happen to be that particular camera for some reason was just a little faulty. And I want to love it because I do want to go mirrorless. So if anyone else, I'm reaching out to you now, if anyone else has had a similar experience or has any idea what could have been wrong, let me know. I should also caveat too that the first session I used the Sigma Art 35mm lens, and that was one of the tech support people said is like, oh well, maybe try the Canon lens, you know, because Sigma Art, I mean, they didn't have a lot of information at the time, so maybe it just wasn't connecting right. So I used the Canon lens that second senior shoot just in case, and again, same problem. So I'm not sure totally what happened. I was pretty brokenhearted, so I'm not gonna give up on it forever. I might try it again, but I might rent it next time instead of purchasing it. Please let me know in the comments below if you have a mirrorless, if you've had any problems, or if it's been smooth sailing for you. It seems like everyone's been smooth sailing, so sometimes I feel like maybe it's just me. I don't know, but you know, I've been around this game for a while, so I tried everything I could think of to make it work. And I just thought it'd be fun to share my story time, and since I haven't seen anybody else with problems, I feel like this could be helpful to someone that's looking into this. Just be careful, make sure you really have that camera, like bring your images into your software, into your computer, look at it up close, make sure it's working for you before you commit to doing this, to changing maybe all your lenses to RF lenses and all those things. And maybe that was the issue too, maybe because it wasn't an RF lens. But again, I used the adapter and I thought that would be fine. But who knows? But anyway, thanks for listening to me, guys. I hope you enjoyed this little bit of tea. And Canon, if you're watching, I would love for your you can always welcome to send me a one to try. No, that's probably never gonna happen, but you know, love Canon, still have my heart, and hopefully I will have a better experience in the future. And until the next time, guys, I'll see you in the next one. Bye.